Welcome to the Party Starters podcast with me, Kane Towning.
I know you're gonna dig this.
Hello people and welcome to the Party Starters podcast with me, Kane Towning. This guest is a real music enthusiast and I love listening to his stories and opinion on the music and nightlife industry. He started back in the early baseline days on the Birmingham scene and has worked his way up through the different genres, different eras, and is still a very active promoter, throwing some of the biggest events in the city. At one point he got signed, got management, had an agent and started touring, and it just wasn't for him. His love of music is what he cares about and what he stood by. He gives you a real honest insight into that side of the industry, something that people don't usually talk about. So listen in and get ready to learn a lot. Welcome to the Party Starters podcast, Tom Shorterz. Thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, nice one for having me on, bro. Really appreciate it. It'll be good to catch up and have a chat.
Yeah, I've been really looking forward to getting you on the podcast and hearing your journey because you've been there since the very, very early baseline days in Birmingham and worked your way through all the different genres, different eras, different clubs, and still a really active promoter on the Birmingham scene, throwing some of the biggest events in the city. So let's take it back. Where did it all start? Where did your musical journey start?
I mean, for me, like, it started at school and it was UK Garage. I was just mad for UK Garage, from to like your Tough Jam, Antill Mob, right the way through to like So Solid Crew and Craig David. Do you know what I mean? I loved it all. Anything garage, I loved it. And my brother had decks, my mates had decks, and we all, messed under 18s parties, house parties, MC battles in my garage. We were just kids messing about, and we loved it. But with garage, it obviously evolved into grime. And when it got to grime, it was just grime. There was no ladies' tunes, no bumpy stuff. It was grime. Fair play to them guys. They was taking it in another direction. So never really gripped me as much. And then one day, on a pure random one, I just put the pirate radio on and I heard this music. I just pressed record on the tape, always had a blank tape in the player. And it was Joe Hunt and Dean Curtis DJ, 2002 this was. And this music that we're playing was like house, like uplifting house. Like Leeds people would probably call it like Casa Locos music, you know what I mean?
All right, yeah.
So it was like, so it was like organs. For example, I don't want to go too much, but like hey ya, stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there now, mate. Have you had the moments in life and something just grips you, something clicks? It's like a light at the end of a tunnel. Something just, I was like, whoa, this is amazing. Like, what is this music? I mean, people called it speed garage. And obviously, we all knew, I know, Spin, Sugar and Rip Groove, but this was something else. This was like, I don't know, I can't even describe it. It was just like, it just overwhelmed me. So I had that tape, I played the tape to death, and I was like, right, I need to find this music. I need this music in my life. Now, this was a big problem because you couldn't just walk into a record shop and go, give me these tunes, because you couldn't find them. You couldn't find the music for shit. Sorry about swearing, but honest to God, you couldn't find it. So I'm like, how am I going to find this stuff? So I learned about record digging. I learned you had to dig deep. You had to go in the bargain bins because you couldn't find this music. And honest to God, it was like a task in itself, but I loved the hunt for it. And I spent, many, many weeks digging records, trying to find this stuff. And I weren't really getting that far because, as I said, it was really hard to find the stuff. And then one of the lads from my area, he was like, on the manor, like, I'm from Sheffield and it's quite, working class area, lower income families and whatnot. And he was like, there's a record shop opening on the manor. And I was like, there's no way. Who's going to open a record shop in our area? Anyway, lo and behold, there was an Aladdin's Cave open pretty much for the entertainment's world. And I went in this shop and I said, I didn't know much about records, but I knew what the Trotters was. You remember that series, don't you? Trotters Independent Traders.
Yeah.
And I walked in and I went, have you got the Trotters? And he gave me 1 to 5. He had them sitting out the back. So I spent my life just evolving trying to find this music. And on this kind of journey of digging records, I met loads of different people in record shops. And all these people, as I got to know them more, they was actually the DJs on the pirate radio, what I was listening to, called Silk City FM. I met a guy called DJ Macca. He would just, took me under his wing, was showing me the records, trading IDs. And that was what it was, bro. I was so into this music, but the only place you could listen to it was pirate radio. It wasn't big. It was just a small little scene. So that's really where that love for music started. And it was just digging in record shops, really. That's where it started.
So there was no events back then? There was no nights started for the bassline stuff?
Wow, it wasn't yet bassline. It was still speed garage house. Again, that Casa Loco sound, I know you know that. Wow. And that's what it was. There was a few. There was like Chip Charlie's, a night run by Paul Brown, and Hemingway's in Solihull. But there was a regular nights in terms of bassline. It was all backstreet clubs. Do you know what I mean? It was like little lurky bars and whatnot. It wasn't really a big thing. But this pirate radio, it was like, you felt part of this underground movement because you tuned your radio in and you got to listen to these tracks. And it wasn't just one sound. He was listening to uplifting house. There was warping garage. There was like funky stuff. It really just gripped me, man. I was like, yeah, this is kind of what I want to do. And so what happened then, talking about nights, from there, we got this event popped up at, it's called Space at the Moon Lounge. Now, in Birmingham, there's this area called the Arcadian in Chinatown, and it was renowned for bars. All the footballers were drinking sober. It was a good place to go if like you went out. And they opened this bar called the Moon Lounge, and they started playing the music in there. And then that was where the club scene started for me. I finally had a club I could go to on the regular, and it was all the music I'd been listening to on pirate radio and all the music I'd been trying to find and collect. So at that point, I think this was 2004. At that point, that was when we finally got the kind of scene, was very early days starting.
And what were the DJs, them first DJs at them events? Is it your Joe Hunts?
Yeah, so there's Joe Hunt, Dean Curtis, and then Davey Boy and Nicky G. I know you know them too. But Echo Records, which was a Birmingham label, had just started. Jump Records had just started. They probably had one or two releases out. This is how far back we're going.
Just when it's starting to bubble.
Yeah, just at that point. So, for me, I'm going there every week, and I'm going up the pirate radio. I wasn't playing on there. That DJ I met called Macca, he was like, I was going up, taking me up there. I was just like buzzing. I remember I was at a point in my life, I was just, as a typical 17-year-old, smoking weed, messing about in college. Just, all I wanted to do was just smoke a bit of weed and play some records. That was it. And then I was at a point in my life, I was like, fucking, I don't really know what to do. And then Nicky G had went, I've got a booking for you. And he booked me for the Moon Lounge. And I'm sure when you got your first booking, you know what that feeling was like. Yeah. So I started playing at the Moon Lounge. I become a regular there. I was, playing on and off. The thing is, how I got playing there? I supported the night. I was going there every week. I would take my records there. We used to open at 8:30. So I'd take my records there at 8:30, buzzing. The DJ's 15 minutes late. Sound, I'll jump on and play a few. Another time, it might be an hour late, so I got to play at the start. And I really started crafting the skill of being a warm-up DJ. And that was what I loved. I was a warm-up DJ. And that's, like, still to this day, it's my favourite set. But that's what I played. A lot of the DJs at the time, you put them on a warm-up, would either A, moan because they're playing first, or B, they would just start banging it out straight away. Whereas me, because I've been digging records for so long and I was so into it, and I'm still into it, but I was so into it, I had a different sound, but it was still part of the speed garage bass line, but it wasn't just straight up warpers at like 9:05. But that's how I got going. And yeah, I was probably a key part of the early days of, there's many of us there, it weren't just me, but we were the originals in that kind of Moon Lounge sound.
Yeah, and just to touch on that point of going down and supporting the night, it's something that I'm hearing a lot on the podcast, and it's something that I think's missing nowadays. So many DJs will contact us for for sets, and they're begging us for sets and wanting sets, and then we say, have you been down to the event? And they're like, no, I've never been.
Exactly.
And it's
Well,
like,
my best one is they'll message and go, "Yo, any bookings?" I mean,
yeah,
how are you expected to literally, "Yo, you got any bookings?" And yeah, but I bang on right, bang on the button there, mate. People stopped doing it, but anyway, that was my choice, and I did it. I did it because I loved doing it as well. Like I just wanted to be a part, and there's a real family unity in that moon lounge. I weren't the closest with my family, no particular reason. That was my family in them clubs. You know what I mean? There was like the DJs, the clubbers. It was brilliant, mate. Do you know what I mean? Really, really loved doing that. So that Moon Lounge era, then again, we need to understand the music. It wasn't just one sound. It was the little bits of house, little bits of warpers, pianos, organs. It was a real mixture, and all the DJs played the same. Not exactly, but you know what I mean. Under that umbrella, it was absolutely wicked. Like real good, positive time in my life.
and just to touch on that music, Tom, because what was it in comparison to like Leeds? Was it more vocally? Was it more of the warpers?
So I mean, obviously that scene progressed a lot. So for me, this is what happened. The DJs, as time was going by, they stopped playing the older stuff. Again, not to keep bringing it up, but just so the listeners know, like that Casa Loco sound. You know what I mean? I was, that sound, the pianos, the organs, the original '98 speed garage was getting phased out. People weren't playing it anymore. They were playing the new stuff, but then the scene split. So one side of it, so a lot of it was coming from niche, was more we call it 4/4 baseline. So they were playing like D&D, Agent X, DJ Veteran, Buddha. That was one side of it.
Mm-hmm.
The other side, Birmingham, a bit more Leeds. It sounds like these fluffy, organy type stuff. Now, when that divide happened, with the more 4/4, it was like quite fast, it was a bit more of a darker sound. It brought us, because, right, let's imagine the original old school ravers, they stopped coming because the old tunes had stopped being played. So it was replaced with there was this attitude in the events, never seen it before. And it was kind of like, for example, we would all be standing there, I don't know, let me think, DBX freedom, I do believe, all that kind of uplifting, arms in the air. This 4/4 stuff was like, wow, 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 wow. And like everyone was like going, pushing and shoving each other and trigger fingers at the DJ. That kind of attitude what appeared. I
Yeah.
wasn't used to it. We as a promoters and DJs, we'd never seen this before. It was really strange. Like, not everyone, because that would be a ridiculous comment, but you'd get like 15, 20 lads would come all hoodied up, standing in the corner, screw faces, and like, that just wasn't our kind of culture. The same way, if you had the hard house culture come over, we weren't fluffy boots and glow sticks. Do you understand what I'm saying? It
Mm-hmm.
changed. You could see there was a change in how the music, mate, the energy. Honest to God, these DJs, was this track, and it was De Explicit Buller Cake. Do you know? I don't know if you've heard of that track.
Yeah.
That would come on, and the dance floor would just go crazy. You couldn't deny it. Like, people wanted that, but it just, the stuff it brought along with it, like the violence in the clubs. I've seen doormen bashing the customers bashing the doormen, people getting their jaws broke, rearing guns. Like, the scene just went somewhere I wasn't used to, and it was a shame, really. But you can't take away the fact that musically, those guys, like that 4/4 bass on, was so far ahead of. We were still playing these pianos, and it all sounded a bit, fluffy. Them guys, they was doing something fresh. You got to give it them. But however, there was this bad element. I'm sure you're aware. You're from up north. If anyone out there, if you Google like niche and like vibe bar, and it weren't just Birmingham. There was just this sadly this element which just came with it, and it's a shame. But that was what happened. I mean, did you see that from your end?
Yeah, completely. It's pretty much a mirror image of that. It didn't get into Leeds as much. There were only a few select nights, and the more stronger nights was your more, obviously Danny Bond. So
Yeah.
the 4/4 sound never fully took over. The organs were always a lot stronger, and there were bigger nights for them. The 4/4, where it was more of like a room 2 thing. Like we used to do a night
Yeah.
called Hanky Panky, and it was the room 2. So it's very similar
But I
to.
mean, touching base, what you just said there, like the organ stuff. This is what I felt. I mean, I don't know if I'm right, but the kind of Echo Records jump to combat the way the music was going. You know, it was a bit aggy, a bit argy bargy. They started making this. It was so fluffy and camp, and like this era come about, and it was like live PAs. So you've
Mhm.
got these girls singing. It was all like, "Oh, I love you. I'm on the phone. I'm alone. I love you." And it was like, God, this is really cheesy. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, my scene when it was either really, really cheesy or really, really dark, it lost the middle bit. And that was what I was. I was the guy in the middle. And I kind of felt then that my interest in that scene was, I'm still a part of it, and it was hard to swallow, hard pill to swallow that I was losing that thing of love. But every scene has to move forward. Do you know what I mean, Kane? We can't spend the rest of your life just playing hey ah hey ah. Do you know what I mean? You've got to move
Mm.
forward, and we've got to bear in mind as well. This scene, people were loving it. It was just my taste and it's my opinion. I'm not putting bad on anyone else. It was just my opinion and observation at the time.
So the 4/4 stuff was too heavy, and you didn't obviously like the violence, and the
Mm,
more Echo Records sound was just a bit too fluffy, a bit too
yeah, a
bit too
bit too
cheesy.
fluffy, a bit too cheesy. I mean, it's not to say I hated every 4/4 tune. Some of the tunes were absolutely wicked. It's not to say I hated some of the kind of more fluffy stuff. I played bits of it, but because it was such a divide and it was just completely different, baseline to one person in Sheffield is completely different to what it is in Brum and completely what it is in Leeds, but we all just called it baseline. I always found that quite peculiar, but not to pigeonhole things, but that's just the way it was.
Yeah, no, me and Danny were speaking about that, how it was just completely different from like the Sheffield market to our market, yet it was still labelled as baseline, and not just the music, but the following as well. A 4/4 night compared to a Danny Bond night was just so far apart in terms of clientele.
Because I mean, I knew with people like Danny Barnes and Jamie Duggan and Banger, they was all there at the start, so they were part of the record culture. They were developing when this sound was going on, and even the DJs split. So at one point, we all played organ, speed garage, and all that, and then Danny Barnes went and done that thing. Duggan went and done that thing. Do you know what I mean? We all moved in our own little paths, but we were all still connected. It's quite strange that is. You know what I mean? We were all connected in the same box, so to speak, but it was so different. So, yeah, that really was when I kind of felt. I mean, not to pinpoint it because I could be a little bit off. About 2006 was when I really noticed. Okay, this is this. I'm not 100% committed to it as I was. I was still playing bits and pieces, but I wasn't fully on it like I used to be. So yeah, that's where I got to with that one.
And then I remember, because I remember you being a huge part of the baseline stuff. And then, yeah, I remember you switching to your more mashup stuff. And I remember a night called Bigger Than Barry because it was quite big in Leeds at the time.
So that's a pretty weird story with that. So after this, I'd done the baseline thing and I had enough of it. I thought to myself, right, I need a change. I thought I'm going to put an indie night on. Now, mate, I
That's a
knew
bit of a
nothing about
change.
it. Mate, listen, I knew nothing about indie. I didn't even like it. I was being a culture vulture. I thought, this indie's gonna. I'll make some dough off it. Do you know what I mean? I'm jumping on something I know nothing about and I don't care about it. And I did a night. It was called Hidden Rocks. Ibiza Rocks had just opened. This is what I mean. Indie was coming through now. Ibiza, which was known for dance music, had a purpose-built club for rock, indie, all that stuff. I thought I'll jump on this. But the night absolutely tanked, bombed, fell clean on its arse. The 50 people what come were my mates anyway. But it was the biggest learning curve. Anyone out there listening to this, thinking about doing nights, you can't just jump on something you're not part of. You can't just jump on something you don't care about. Do you know what I mean? You can't. Like I was being a culture vulture, but the magic happened because I never knew what I was doing, yeah. And I booked this DJ. His name was Scott Bleeps. I thought he was an indie DJ. Anyway, he was playing at this night called Bigger Than Barry, which was at the Rainbow Pub. And I knew the Rainbow Pub from this event called Below, and we'll probably talk about that later. So anyway, I went flyering because that's what you used to do back then. Turned up to go flyering. I walked into this pub, and like I said to you when I heard that Joe Hunt sound, I had one of them moments. Something like a light bulb, something just gripped me and stopped me in my tracks. These DJs and the promoters playing in there, they didn't give a fuck. They were playing reggae into garage, grime into hip hop. It was just anything goes. It was insane. Like the one DJ was called Dirty Web Slinger. The other one was called Dead Cat. It was just, mate, honestly, it was mental. But what was so crazy about it? I mean, the music was one thing, but the people in there. Now, you got all these indie kids with like skinny jeans, like typical skins. But then I saw this like streetwear fashion in there. I've never seen it before. So the following day, once I left I had this most amazing experience. I went into town and I bought myself some Vans. Do you remember Vans?
Yeah.
Snapback cap, and I had a checkered shirt on, and I'd like button the top button up, and there was like some movement in there, like a new cultural youth movement in there. And like, do you know what I mean? That's quite like, you look back at old rave now and everyone's there, smiley t-shirt. That was the fashion back then. Or garage was like Moschino and, all that kind of stuff. This was like Trapstar, Obey, Diamond, Palace, all these streetwear brands. And I'd never seen anything like this before. So it was really exciting. It wasn't just musically. It was quite you know what I mean? Like a movement. I felt like I was part of this new scene. And same thing like I did with Moon Lounge. I showed my support to the event. I kept going. I was listening to the DJs that were booking. One thing led to another. I started playing for them. And then, but the thing is, what I did quite clever was my mashup sound. I went really into indie. So I used things from our scene, Kane. I used the bits of house, like, the little bits of speed goes. That was my mashup. And mate, it was crazy. Like on paper, someone's probably going, that doesn't sound good. Honestly, I've not seen energy like it. It was like a house party. Do you understand what I mean? Like a mad house party. And then I was DJing for Bigger Than Barry. You had Bigger Than Barry Leeds. I think I was at Mint Club. I was coming up there and playing there, this mashup style. I was playing on stage with like Benga, Rusco, like dubstep. That was their sound, another sound there. Dubstep, I'd never heard it before. Scream, Benga. Who else was there? Zing, Boy 8-Bit, Major Lazer. They booked Major Lazer. I mean, this is just insane. And it was such a good time. And then I got the call from Gatecrasher. Now, people might laugh about Gatecrasher. Gatecrasher was one of the biggest UK brands we've ever had. Yeah, I think. Did you have a Gatecrasher in Leeds? Was that Sheffield?
Yeah. We had one in Leeds. We used to do events there.
Wicked. So it was like this big club, and they asked me to come and play this mashup sound in there. So me and Joe Hunt, big up Joe Hunt, and mate Goldsby, we just did that same thing: mashup, dubstep into jungle, into house, into garage. Next thing you know, I went from the small room to the second biggest room. It's called the Mansion, weekly resident. Then they're booking me in Gatecrasher in Nottingham, just playing this mashup sound. You got to remember, I was the bassline DJ, so I had this stigmatism. I remember when I walked in the first Bigger Than Barry, I saw these lads and like, you do not get bringing them bassline like here. Do you know what I mean? It was, you had this like stigma, like, oh God, here we go, the bassline up to you. But I managed to, shake off that dark cloud above my head, and I was quite proud that, I was doing the mashup thing, like Gatecrasher at the time. They were booking like Swedish House Mafia, Calvin Harris, David Guerra, whatever you think of them. They were the biggest DJs in the world at that time, weren't they? So that was basically this new era of being a mashup DJ, and it was again another amazing experience. But just to think that would have never have happened if I hadn't failed, absolutely failed doing an indie night, because I would never have, would never have went there.
Yeah, and just from booking you as a DJ at our events over the years, I'd say that Mush Up Style has stayed with you. Is that where you first learned it? Because still in your sets now, you still pick from all kinds of different genres, but you've always managed to gel that together. Like you said just then about being labelled a bassline DJ, you've always kind of, blurred the boundaries of that. We've booked you for baseline events, we've booked you for insomnia events, we've booked you pretty much for, I think, every event we've done across all them different music genres. Because from me being in Leeds and looking at you as an artist, you've never had a label. You've always had that kind of mashup sound, and it's
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it originally come from, I've got where credit's due, was those early Joe Hunt days on the pirate radio, because they was doing it back then. They were playing a little bit of piano, a little bit of organ, a little bit of, and that was what gripped me. I just loved the mixture.
I guess as well, just, knowing like you used to do the crate digging for the records and how much of a music enthusiast you are, when that shines through in your sets, picking on different genres and different music styles and even different mixing styles.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, it started as well when I was doing the Moon Lounge. To go back on that, there was this little hatch and it led you into the other club next door. So I used to jump through the hatch and I'd go upstairs, and there was a night, it was called Clique and Promise. It was run by Rue J and Andy Bell. And they were playing funky house. So I'm going to these different parties going, wow, I really like this. So then when I was going to the shops, I was asking for stuff like that, looking for stuff, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was always going to different events. I still do it now. It's like I'm hearing different sounds because I was going to different events. I weren't just staying with the bass line. But back to your point, that mashup style has got me so far in what I've done. I mean, a big moment was when I got the call. I was currently playing at Gatecrash, and I got the call, and it was that Scott Bleeps guy again, and I told you about. He was running a party called Face. This was the most credible event in the city. They were booking like Jamie Jones, Maya Jane Coles, like really, proper credible acts. And he was like, "Do you want to come and host a cellar, doing your mashup thing?" And again, I went there. Same thing happened. This time it was with my mate Mark Spence. We did that together, and people got to understand that these things never just clicked into place. I had to graft them. I had to work them. I had to go out flyering, postering. I did all that, and again, it was the sound. It was just completely different. As times changed, like when I went to Face, I was like, I can't really be banging out loads of gritty dubstep downstairs, and I can't really probably start playing like slang tang rhythm, all this like bashment and reggae. So I just got rid of that, and I coined the term house and bass. It wasn't a genre; it just was an umbrella term for all the different styles of music. And from that point on, that was when things really started moving into bigger territory.
Yeah, I remember them days well, because that was pretty much what we were doing in Leeds as well. It had moved on from the bass line. It wasn't cool enough to be a house, so yeah, house and bass.
But yeah, it was a big thing. But I tell you what, a funny kind of era. I mean, I know you guys were there as well. So there was this event in Brum, and it was called Glass. Amazing party. Literally one of the best events Brum's had, probably the best 10 years. And at the start of the party, it started at 3 p.m. on a Sunday. For the first part of the night, I remember there was a guy called Will Power and a guy called Atterson playing Jacking House, but proper, like real deal Chicago. DJ Sneak, Inland Nights, Joey Youngman, real Jacking House stuff. But you know what people are like? Because they're going to this new party and asking what the music is, people started calling this music Jacking. I was like, okay, cool. So then Joe Hunt and Will Power, they created this tune. I don't know if it was big up there. It was called House Jackers, Bad Man Forward. Do you ever remember it?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Bad Man Forward, Bad Man Pull Up.
Pull up.
And mate,
Yeah.
it was a really simple tune, swingy jacking beats with an FM bass in there. And what happened was, because everyone's clocked that Joe once made this jacking tune, the whole bassline scene has then went whoomp and tried to start doing jacking. So everyone started changing the names. You had Jay Jacking, Jackie Jack, Dave Jackson, the Jackers. Do you know what I mean? Everyone just stuck the word Jack on their name. It was quite funny at the time. But anyway, people then started making this version of Jacking House. Now, I mentioned a DJ, then Jay Jacking and Dapper D. They done a Let Me Clear My Throat. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, that was huge.
It was a big, massive tune. I absolutely loved it. Oh, there was loads. And everyone was just banging out these tunes, cause and effect as well. Like, Lorenzo, obviously, he was the master of it. But that was this jacking sound. But what happened was the proper house heads were like pointing their finger, going, "That ain't jacking. We ain't touching that." So they shut the door. Then the house events in Birmingham, they clocked on. I was like, "Hang on a minute, this is just bassline slowed down." So they shut the door on it. But me, I was buzzing because I was like, "This is jackline." Do you know what I mean? I called it jackline. It was bassline slowed down. So then I had this new music in my set. Do you tell you what else was big at that era? Do you remember MK Lana Del Rey, that Blue Jeans, that one?
Yeah.
It was massive. That was such a big tune. Low Step Out as well. He was putting out bits, you know. And it was, again, all I was doing was just doing a mashup set of all these different sounds. But every time I've done a mashup, I've always had one new music. It wasn't just old. And that was that era, weren't it? When I used to come and play for you guys. And I tell you what else was a good sound then. Remember that shuffling, like I'm in Edge and Dance, Hungry for the Power. Imagine now I've got that. I've got Jackie Nails. I've got my little bits of warpers and that. And it was just wicked, mate. Absolutely amazing time.
Yeah, the jacking sound was just a perfect follow-on from bassline because, like you say, it wasn't quite house. It wasn't the warping bassline. It was just bassline slowed down, which were perfect for the market at that time. Just to go back to you touching on Loz, Chris Lorenzo. I mean, how big of a part was he of the Birmingham scene? I know what productions he's responsible for. And
How big was he? He was the Birmingham scene, mate. Let me tell you a story. Yeah. I first done a tune with him when he was 16 years old. I didn't never met him before, but it was like he was just coming through the ranks. I went round his house. He's 16. He's sitting in his bedroom drinking a can of Super Skull extra strength lager. I'm like, who the hell is this? Like, mate, the pissheads on the street drink that. And he just looked at me, "You all right, mate?" I was like, "Yeah, sound." I went, "Look, I found this tune. It's called The Homies. It was this really rare track." I said, "That's the vocal there. I've given the vocal." I went, "I got this tune here, Jeremy Sylvester. I just want the bass." I didn't think, I just thought we'll see what happens. Within 20 minutes, he made me a tune. I'm looking at him going, "How have you just done that?" He was like, "Well, you asked me to do it, so I've done it." He was a genius. That's when he was 16. Do you know what I mean? And anything. What was good with Lars as a studio engineer, you could go around to him, you could show him, like, this is what, he wouldn't necessarily be into it, but you could say, "I want my drums like this." And he would understand, and he could translate that into his, his DAW, his computer. And that was obviously back in the olden days, it was very much studio engineers. DJs were the record producers. You go to an engineer and you'd direct them. You'd be like, "Okay, I want this sound. Don't put that there, move this there." And Chris Lorenzo was just a genius at doing that. I mean, as you know, his career now, but yeah, if anyone asked me, he was the Birmingham, he was the backbone of it, and the music he put out there and helped, hats off to Chris, what an absolute talent and a genius.
yeah, no, I completely second that. And he pretty much carved the jacking scene. He pretty much carved out the bassline scene.
He was brilliant. I mean, I done a disco boogie tune with him. Like, I went round there and I was like, I just want to make something different. He probably never even listened to this music. Showed him my samples, showed him how I wanted to, guided him through a bit so he understood a bit, but that's what Loz did, and that's why he crafted his sound as an engineer. That's why at one point he must have been doing about 10 tunes a week. So for him, he's just practicing in his house. I mean, look at him now. He's easily one of the best top 5 producers in the UK for me. So again, got to take that time and credit to big up Chris Lorenzo.
Absolutely. So you're now into you was playing at Face. Is this when 231 kicked off?
Well, yeah. So again, I got a call, get a lot of calls, don't I? So I got a call and there was this brand and it was called Rock and Roller. And it was a massive brand. It was Mickey Slim, Rue and Alex, really good DJs at the time. They were doing Ibiza and they were doing things like South Korea and stuff. They were a massive brand, put it that way. And they moved a venue from the Rainbow. They moved because they was opening a club somewhere else, I don't know. So the club was vacant and Lee McDonald, who was the owner of the venue, Andy Bell, who was another promoter and DJ in the city, we kind of come together And they, put it on the table and said, look, we need to start an after party. Everyone was like, you're mad. How are you going to go up against, such and such? How is this ever going to work? And I was just like, we got to give it a shot. We got to try. And we started off. It was absolutely terrible. There was about 50 people in there. You got to understand this venue, the Rainbow. It was it was an archway, a viaduct where the trains went over. It would drip with water. There was holes everywhere. It was freezing cold, puddles on the floor. We had these industrial space heaters that would just pump out methane gas. I'm surprised it took 10 years of everyone. It was just an underground raw venue. But we realised that was our strength. We wasn't upmarket. We wasn't red carpet affair. Let's just promote it as an underground rave because that's what it was. And it got there. I'll tell you when it got there. We booked Red Light. Red Light had just put out Source 16. Massive tune. I was like, we need to book Red Light. And then magic started happening. And this 231, people got to understand, it was the same mashup I've been talking about, this house and bass. This was a platform for Hannah Wants, one of my first residents. One of the hardest working DJs I've ever come across, by the way, like without fail. Like her work rate as a DJ was up there. We had Cause and Effect, we had Low Stepper, Pete Graham, and they all played at this tiny little art. But it went tiny, like 300 cap, do you know what I mean? And we all just played this sound. And they were like some of the big tunes for anyone out there listening, like Julio Bashmore, that boom, 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 boom. That was huge. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Absolutely massive. So that was a real good tune. And anyway, it went from strength to strength. But what my little knack was, I would find these DJs before they got big because I'm so into music. I was finding Shadow Child, Rosca, obviously DJ Q had been about a bit, but like I could see that, that could work. And I'd find all these acts and, back then, you'd look at some of the lineups, you'd have Shadow Child playing with a UK funky act, playing with a bassline DJ, all on the same lineup. Again, that mashup. As time went by, as you know, it was, I'm not playing with him, I'm not playing with him, and my sound doesn't work there. And I was like, well, I'm the promoter. Surely to God, I should have the creative freedom of that. But anyway, 231 went from strength to strength, from an after party to big warehouse shows. I was booking Disclosure, Todd Edwards. God, I think the amount of people we had play there, which just before they got big, basically, Subtract for the first birthday. Do you know what I mean? Like it was amazing, and it just went from strength to strength to strength. I put my heart and soul into that brand. Do you know what I mean? Whereas Project, you name it, that brand went there, and it was a really good time for me.
Yeah, and getting that off the ground, like you say, going up against Rock and Roller. I remember Rock and Roller. We had it in Leeds. How did you combat that? How did you get 231 off the ground, competing against a brand like Rock and Roller and some really strong promoters like Mickey Slim?
I mean, obviously, amazing guys at the time. I mean, Mickey Slim was massive, and Alex and Rue. It's nothing against them, but they was kind of, obviously Mickey was like electro, do you know what I mean? Like that kind of sound, and they played a bit more, not ED, it wasn't EDM, but then like laid back loop, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Whereas I was obviously, because I had them bassline roots, and obviously there was them little bits of politics. We're all friends now, we all played for each other. But I'd definitely say with the music, what we did was just completely different. Like Shadow Child, no one had heard of Shadow Child when we booked him. When they turned up and heard in play, or Rosca, for example. Rosca was obviously big, but it was the music why we stood out. And I remember another thing, right? At the time, do you remember the Only Ways Essex? We used to Towie, or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Do you know, everyone was in that, and I was so anti that. I thought, we can use this in our favour. We kind of used to write these posts like, we're not Towie, we're underground raw. I used to have this blurb, it's so cringe, like, in the raw Victorian dripping archway, like just taking the mick out of how bad our venue was. Another thing, Kane, and I know if you're an old school promoter, flyering, postering, CDs. Yeah. My mate would drive round, I'd jump out of a staple, going bang, 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 posters going up. I did that like 5 days a week. Do you know what I mean? Like, You had to graft back then. None of this stick 100 quid boost on Facebook, mate. You had to be out there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the old school way and just ticking them boxes. So 231 really boosted you. Is this when you started doing bits with Rinse and when you started getting into the more production side? I know you had that huge track with KB.
So, I mean, what happened there? So we're making a bit of noise, you know what I mean, in Birmingham. And Marcus Nasty, you know, again, it's another hats off moment. He really believed in what we were doing, as in me, Kane, Lorenzo. He was so into it, kept getting us on his show. The Rinse guys at the time, which was Scott Patterson and a guy called Rat, they were like the talent bookers and stuff like that. Got us on Rinse, and we become Rinse family. Like, you got to understand that me, Kane, and Lars drove down every single week, 1 till 3 a.m. to play in London to drive back. Do you know what I mean? That level of dedication, because we wanted it so much. We were just buzzing, like, you know, playing the Jackie in the house and all that kind of stuff. And obviously, you know, one thing leads to another, and Rinse FM signed me as they were managing me. Like, I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I've been signed, I've got managers, you know, big up Scott Patterson. He manages like people like Scream, Route 94, Salado, and he really did guide me and got me into the right places. Just a good, solid manager. And, you know, that was that Rinse thing. So because I was on Rinse, I was getting the remixes from like KTB, like asking me to do remix work, done the KTB thing. And everything's popping up for me now, okay? And I'm like, Richie Ahmed's playing my stuff, Scream's playing my stuff. I'm getting all these bookings coming in. I'm loving life. Now, I had this one track, and it was called Colours, Lucy Love, and it got signed. And everyone was telling me, I think it was Virgin or Sony, one of the two. And everyone's telling me, Shorter's going to be massive. This song is going to be massive. Everyone's telling me I'm going to be massive. Playing these gigs everywhere. You know, mate, I was playing like Croatia, Paris, Ibiza, Whereas, Project Fabric, everywhere I'm playing. Like for yourself, the promoters are like, mate, you're going to be massive. So they're gassing me up now. I'm like, here we go, Kane. This is it. Here we go. Here we go. Zump. Nothing. Nothing happened. Nothing. I don't even got released. I had a music video. Nothing happened. And I'm just like, okay, what next? Mate, that industry is ruthless.
So
No
they
one
actually
cares
signed
anymore.
the track?
And mate, he had a music video. It's called Lucy Love Colours. I had a music video, and I genuinely believe that I think it was Virgin or Sony had signed this track. It was, mate, it was a really good, like, you know, at the time, then we had like MK17 and all that kind of stuff. It was very fit. Duke Jamont, prime example, that era.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine having everyone telling you, like, you got to understand one thing with me. I've always been happy as the warm-up DJ, the room two, because that's my sound. I don't care. Like, if you play in the main room, especially bassline, he was just having to play like Cheating and Telling Me Lies and Wanna Be Your Wifey and all that stuff. So I've never before really believed in myself that much. I just turned up and played. Imagine having everybody telling you you're going to be this big, massive superstar DJ. And it just never happened. And then I remember I went to the management. I've moved on from Rinse, by the way. Can't remember what one it was. I had so many. And they were like, well, you know, Tom, yeah, just, you know, we need to get you like some, you know, more bookings. You need to make a banger. All right, mate, 1 sec. Let me turn the banger machine on and I'll press the button and I'll have a banger. Like, where'd you know? I was like, well, I've got loads of tunes there in that folder. And they were like, yeah, it's too specialist, you know, we need to do like this. So I then started going in the studio, it's cringeworthy thinking about it, trying to make pop records. Do you know what I mean? Like, what am I doing? This wasn't me. This wasn't what I was about. And then the best one, the management was like, well, you know, Tom, you're a funny guy. We could do with your social media, seeing that more funny personality. What do you want me to do? Get a unicycle and start juggling dressed as a clown? I was like, do you know what I mean? I was like, I'm a DJ. And he said something to me, Kane, and it sticks with me to this day. He went, it's tickets over talent. And it was true. I was a promoter myself. You know this, Kane. What was the first thing you said on one of your early podcasts? Supply and demand. There was no demand for me, bro. I got to admit it. Do you know what I mean? although I generally thought, this really good DJ had all these tunes. Unless you're selling tickets, no one give a shit. So
Mm.
then what happened? It was the era of the producer. Everyone was booking. All you needed was one tune, and you were touring the bloody world. Tell you a perfect example. Do you remember Friend Within, Renegade Master?
Yeah.
He put up this post himself and said, he was like, I have been DJing for all these years. I made that one tune. I'm getting all these bookings, and everyone's going to say, well, when are you going to make the next Renegade Master? He's like, well, that was, you know what I mean? It just turned to that. Every booking was based around a producer, or not even a producer, just one song they made. The amount of people what made a career off one tune, and obviously, it was one of them, mate. And I remember I was so like just felt a bit down. Do you know what I mean? Like the anti-climax. I was gonna fuck it all off. I was like, this isn't what I want to be. And I had one of them moments again, and I thought, Tom, why did you get into music, records, what else, playing in my city? And I went back to doing what I do best, and I couldn't tell you how happy it was to go back to doing it. And I realised I'm not that arsed about playing in these ginormous festival stages and all that. Put me in a 300 cap room, bro, in Birmingham with my people, and I'm happy. So anyone out there what might be thinking, oh God, I haven't got here and I haven't got there. But what have you got now? Just enjoy it. Just enjoy what you've got now and make it your own. And I did it. And as I said, mate, I felt so much happier. So I'm glad I experienced that time. Mate, I played in Japan, frigging, as I said, Ibiza, Warehouse Project, Fabric, Sub Club. These are the best clubs in the world. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I'm just so happy that it kind of finished, to be fair.
It's really interesting to hear that, Tom, and it's one of the main reasons I wanted to get you on the interview, to find out why you never pursued that next level. Out of all the DJs, if someone had have asked me who's going to make it big, I would have without a doubt said yourself, because you had all the hallmarks of doing that. You was bubbling for so many years, and then you got signed, you started releasing music, you was playing on all the big shows, you had started to tour. I could no longer ring you up and book you direct, and then it just pretty much stopped. And I've always wanted to know what the reason was for that, and you've just been so honest in explaining it and being really open, which is something you just do not hear nowadays. Everyone sells the dream of touring and getting signed and getting a record deal, and it is really not for everyone. You lose a lot of control, and it's less about the music. And for someone like yourself who's always been about the music, it completely makes sense why it just wasn't for you.
That was what it was. I was just, even from back in the Moon Lounge, it's quite weird. Everyone else wants the main room. I'm happy doing the warm up. And I'm not just saying that now, trying to be modest. Ask anyone. I'm happy as Larry, like warm ups or room twos, and that was my thing. But yeah, mate, that was what it was. I generally had that much gas, thinking I was going to be this big star. The moment they found out that tune wasn't going to be released in the charts, mate, you see people just go rump and move on to other people. But that's the industry, mate. Do you know what I mean? And as I said, I'm glad it happened, and I'm glad I found what I actually love doing, which is playing in my city to my kind of people.
Yeah, and I guess it just shows how passionate you are about music. You're not asked about them huge shows or the touring or the image or what you have to do on social media. It's just all about the music.
Well, that, like you just said there, image, that was a lot of the thing. I understand it, Kane, but you've got to think of your brand. And they used to say to me, well, you should just stick to one type of music. It's just too hard to position you anywhere. Like, they literally wanted me to change who I am as a DJ and all this. That wasn't who I was. I've got to stay true to myself to a degree. But, and by the way, the advice they were giving me was absolutely correct. You see it now, people doing these funny videos. Hey guys, this is my studio. They get in interaction and all that. It's true what they were saying. But I chose not to, to go that way and just go back to doing what I enjoyed most, which was, as I said, records, playing in my city, and buzzing that I chose to take them steps.
Yeah, no, hats off to you, and it is very relatable having worked with his record label. managers and people, all of a sudden you sat around a huge table with people you've only just met and they're all telling you what you need to do, what you need to wear, how you need to look, what you need to say. And I hated it. I absolutely hated it. For someone who's always been in control of my own path and my own journey and my own sound and my own music, and then suddenly I'm sat with some strangers who are telling me what direction to go in. I just didn't enjoy that side of it. There are a lot of benefits and a lot of positives, don't get me wrong, but it's just something that you need to consider, that you do lose a lot of control. And yeah, I didn't enjoy that side, and that's been completely honest and open about it.
Definitely.
Just to go back to the shows that you did, the touring that you did, you just said Japan and stuff. They must have been pretty incredible. How did you find the touring side of it? Is that as glamorous as what it looks like?
I got to cut straight to the point now. So when I'm going on these tours, I was just getting smashed. Do you know what I mean? But for some reason, I could play. Like, as you said, I'd play for you, and the promoters would be like, "That was wicked." I'm like, so when I'm touring, I'd turn up to the club, I'd do my gig because you're in foreign country and your mates aren't with you. It's quite lonely. Anyone out there thinking touring, it's all this glamorous thing. It's quite lonely. Well, I found it lonely anyway. So I'd just go back to the hotel room after my set and just sit up, getting on it on my own. And that door knocks, room service, time to get out your room. I was like, oh my God. So you ask me about my experiences of touring, let's just say Europe and the world, whatever you want to call it. The majority of it was me flying home, still awake, still hanging, absolutely exhausted mentally and physically because I just pushed the boundaries. And go understand, mate, I went from getting paid, 50 quid, 100 quid. People give me like a grand to go and play, or even 500 quid for an hour. Like, to me, I'm just a kid from the baseline. So someone's giving me this money to play, and I was earning from my 231. I didn't know what to do with it. I just bought trainers and got smashed. That's me being completely honest. So anyone out there who ever may, fall into that trap, like just be careful. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a slippery slope, mate. Do you know what I mean?
And what are we talking? Private jets to Japan?
Nah, was it economy? Your knees in your chest. Again, mate, it's funny you say that. Everyone thinks it's this like private jet thing, mate. I'm talking budget economy at the back, having to pay for your own cases. I wasn't a superstar DJ. People were booking me because of my music. Again, as I said, I openly admit I'm not someone you put on and you're going to sell 1 million tickets. You know what I mean? But I could rock a party, and I don't know. But definitely, as I said, if I'm being honest, when people ask me what was touring like, the majority of it, mate, I was just on a constant smasher. So I can't remember much of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you're back in Birmingham, doing what you like, playing your music to your home crowd. What happens next?
Okay, so I started this event and it was called Colours, me and Lee McDonald. And this was after I come from that phase of, oh God, I've had enough of this touring DJ stuff. One room was Darius Sarossian, Seb Zito, Archie Hamilton, Claude Van Stroke. Let's just call it the cool cats. Downstairs was all my baseline mates. You've got Holy Goof, Skepsis, Mackie G. Quite a strange contrast. Smashed it.
That is really strange, isn't it?
Mate, it was unreal. Again, I'm just doing what I've always done. It's a mashup in different rooms. Mate, it was getting like 900 people every week in the summer on a roof. Anyway, it kept going on and on and on. And the Rainbow venues lost its license because some kid taken an ecstasy tablet and sadly died. Mate, we lost everything. We lost every venue. The Rainbow wasn't just the Rainbow. It was a pub. It was a warehouse. It was an arena. It was a crane. On its peak, the Rainbow was probably, at one point, it had 4,000 people in the arena. At the exact same time, 20 metres across the road, 1,500. 50 metres up the road in another venue, 500. Do you know what I mean? It was a complex of venues. Everything overnight lost, completely gone. There was a big, the Rainbow guys tried to campaign, I don't know what you'd call it, like fight the case, so to speak. And, we lost it all. So I'm now like, oh my God, I don't have, and not just promote, I didn't have anywhere to DJ because I put my life and soul into that Rainbow. Do you know what I mean? It really was a big part of my life. And there was this club called Lab 11, and I'd been there as a rave. I played there actually, but I'd been there as a rave, a more wicked little underground space. But I'd never really seen it to its full potential. And and without that club, I would be absolutely screwed now, because there was nowhere in Birmingham. There was nowhere where you could carry it on. And by then, 231 had changed. Now, you probably know this. I become a tour. I would put tours on for people. So it was My New Langham Mates, Skepsis tour, Hannah Wants tour. It wasn't 231 me picking the acts. They told me who to book, what set times they're playing. Do you understand what I mean? The scene had changed. The artists were big. So this was a new era for me. I was doing all the tours at Lab 11. And again, Lab 11, it's just two independent promoters, no corporates, two lads, that run Glass and Terminal, who for the love of music have got this venue. And yeah, mate, it's been a really positive thing for the city. What's good about Lab 11, it's not trying to be like a print works. It's not trying to be Warehouse Project, a big giant room. It's all these little nuts and crannies. You got a little roof, 300 cap. You got a yard, 1,000 cap. You got a main room, 500. Do you know what I mean? All these little rooms. And that's what promoting is for me. Multiple room, multiple genre. And from the back of that, we started After Dark, which, again, a tiny little room. We dressed it up with all amazing decor, me, Alex and Will. And we kickstarted a new after party. So what I left behind at Rainbow, the 231 after party, so to speak, I actually restarted with a new team, but doing more tech house music, minimal, that kind of stuff. And that's went from strength to strength. So I've pretty much always managed to find my feet. But again, I would like to think a lot of people, because they know me because of my music, and I bring something a little bit different. And having that at your club or your event, it's nice. So yeah, that's where I'm at now. And again, just to be on record, the happiest I've been in ages, DJing, so I'm very thankful, and big up all the Birmingham supporters and everyone else who's booked me over the years. Really, mate. It's been a good journey, and I'm still here. So buzzing.
And just going back to After Dark, it's all built on residents, isn't it? Good local talent.
Yeah, exactly what it is. But when we started it, we never had that chat of sitting down going, we're going to play this music, that music. And I was doing these sets. We put turntables in there. And I was playing for like 5 hours, and I'm just throwing, mate, again, that mashup. I was going from 93, Detroit house, like MK's early stuff, all the way through to Fisher. Do you know what I mean? That's the scope. Again, buzzing, wicked. And then as it's progressed, we started, mate, it was mental. Like, we have Rich Ahmed turn up, jump on the decks, Michael Bibby, Hannah Wants, Chris Lorenzo, DJ Q done a house set in there. Like, everyone was just coming down to play. And I got a big up all them, like, because none of them ever asked for any money. They come down, they jumped on, and they got stuck in. And obviously, as a brand starting off, getting that high caliber of artists jump on, how valuable that is. So yeah,
definitely. And touching on the artists and the bookings, is there a reason why you don't do that? What is your view on all these increasing artist fees and agents?
God, you're opening a can of worms there with me, mate. No, I mean, I'm not. I'll have a bit of banter online about it, but this is what it is, Kane. Yeah, if you're going to charge me £10,000 and you're going to sell me 20, 30 grand's worth of tickets, you're a businessman. That makes sense. Even, let's say some people do it with cars, for example. You buy a car for 10 grand, sell it for 15, you made 5 grand profit. That's basic business. I agree with what they're doing there. It's the ones who are charging you 3 grand and they're not even worth 20 tickets. They're the problem, in my opinion. So you've got some guy who's a breakthrough act. He's done a couple of tunes. He's not selling you tickets, but he's a good DJ and you want to support him. Again, like I was that guy, you know what I mean? He's maybe not be driving the sales, but he's a good act. And they're coming with this £3,000. You're like, he's a 250 cap party, mate. That's his price. So you say I don't want to do it. You know what the fuckers going to do? We're going to the rival promoter in the city and sell him to them. And they bounce us off each other. I don't know if they do it in Leeds. They ping pong, like, they'll do a blanket email to all the promoters going, who wants him? And you're all bidding against, not just with rival promoters, we're friends. We're all bidding against each other. So, my argument with it is, if you're actually worth the tickets and you can justify your price, that's fine. It's these ones that even sometimes like, oh, mate, do you want to come play? I've got 500 quid for it. And like, oh, nah, 3 grand. I'm like, mate, are you for real? Do you know what I mean? And he never used to be like that. Like you said, you used to book me, pick up the phone. I used to, there's people out there, you could pick up the phone and book them. The moment that agents and that get involved, not everyone, we need to make that clear. There are some amazing agents out there and amazing managers, but there is definitely a culture of this where everyone's having enough of it. It's just, okay, here's another principle. The rider, the drinks. Who needs 4 bottles of Grey Goose? 3 bottles? Where are you going? You're starting up an off license. Do you know what I mean? You don't need that much booze. I told you, you've opened a can of worms here. So, but anyway, that's my thoughts on it.
I completely agree. It's like your middle of the road DJs. I think they're just gonna. Well, I know loads that just aren't getting booked because, like you say, unless they can sell 3 grand's worth of tickets, which most of them don't warrant that, then they're just not going to get booked. So it's kind of like the middle ground has gone. Yeah,
exactly.
And that's very evident in clubs as well. You've got 1,000 to 1,500 capacity venues now that can't get the huge acts because it just doesn't add up. And your middle of the ground acts don't sell enough tickets, and they cost 3 to 5 grand. So
it's mental. I mean, like, I speak to Duggan, obviously, really good promoter, good DJ. He runs Tank and he books up the high caliber of acts. I said, how'd you do that? He said, because they're the ones what, get people going. Like, there isn't, I just don't feel there's room anymore for the breakthrough acts at them prices. If everyone took a conscious effort to say, maybe the deal should be like this, for example, okay, I've got all this going on this year. I'll do one for 500, one for a grand. Towards the end of the year, when all the tunes and the hypes come out, then maybe we'll look at a little 3 grander. That makes sense. You can't be jumping, running before you walk, or whatever the saying is. But that's my outlook on it, and I just think,
yeah, it's a bit black and white, isn't it? Where there needs to just be a bit more realness of actually what is going on.
Definitely.
So you've recently opened a record shop. Is that what your new project is?
Yeah, well, as we've spoke about for this podcast, I've always, the record's been a big part of my life. Buying collections and then gathering dust, sitting there. There's this thing in Brum called Digbeth Dining Club. It's amazing. It's like a street food event. So you go there and they've got these little vendors selling these amazing food. It's such a good thing for the city. And I went to the promoter, James Swinburne. I went, do you mind me doing a little flea market? I was just going to bring some boxes downstairs, you know what I mean? Like a car boot sale. Mm-hmm. He said, why don't you do a record shop upstairs? And I laughed. I went, no, I'm serious. Go up there and have a look. I had this room just sitting there, loads of junk in. Next thing you know, I'd opened a record shop with myself, my friend Patrick, and my friend Mark Spence. We opened this record shop, and it's been a great hub for the city. Kane, it's like bringing them like, I don't know, childhood memories, if you want to call it. Everyone's in there. We're talking records. There's banter. I'm finding old tunes. And you know what the mad thing is? Do you know what the best seller is in the record shop? Speed garage and retro house, the Castellopo stuff, the niche stuff. That's what people are loving. So I'm now getting kids who are 19, 20, coming asking me for these records, and it's a passion project, bro. And me and my mate, I think the most we've probably took our back off it is a Nando's each. We do it because we love it. I ain't retiring anytime soon. Anything we make, we pump straight back in, and it's a big team effort. And again, anyone listening, shouts to everyone in Digbeth who's kept my little project alive. And yeah, but I'm not retiring soon, so that's just a passion project, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it sums up everything you've said in the podcast. The reasons you do this is for your love of music, and the record shop is a symbol of that.
Definitely.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Tom. I've absolutely loved listening to your journey. Have you got any final bits of advice for people listening, wanting to become a promoter or go on the DJ path?
Just do something you love. Do you know what I mean? Just follow your heart. And if you ever get that moment in life, that light bulb moment, that's something that stops you in your tracks musically, just go with it. Come out your comfort zone. You never know what will happen.
Welcome to the Party Starters podcast with me, Kane Towning.
I know you're gonna dig this.